to the Pomegranate Grove. The amazing Mandy on the Moon usually does the introductions, but she's not with us here this evening, so it's going to be me, yours truly. I am Cassidy the Card Slinger. We also have Khalid.
Khalid, also known as Khalid Avans. I'm based in Kuwait.
Awesome. And Sharon?
I'm Tarot Squirrel. I'm based in the United States in Georgia.
Awesome. And I'm over on the west coast of Canada. We've got two of our amazing Patreons here with us today. We have Kelly. Kelly, where are you at?
I'm in New Jersey, United States.
Awesome. And Nicole, where are you calling from?
Hi, I'm from Vienna, Austria.
Awesome. Yes, we are truly an international group of all things mystical, magical, tarot, astrology, you name it, we are interested in it. So tonight, the podcast topic is going to be fairly interesting. I'm sitting here shuffling my little deck. If you caught our podcast a few weeks back, we had done a in-depth dive on a random card. We're going to do a similar thing tonight where we're going to do kind of in-depth dives on two different cards, and then we're going to talk about how they relate to each other, how it would look if we got them both in a reading, how they impact each other, and all of that good stuff. So,
Cassidy, imagine we both get the same card on the first shuffle.
That will be amazing. And we're going to just stick to upright because we're going to try and keep these podcasts under control. So, Khalid, I'll let you pull the first card. Who are we going to talk to tonight?
All right. It's coming up. I hope everyone's ready.
Oh, the suspense.
Tonight we're talking about the Six of Coins.
Oh, I love this card. He was the third card in my deck. Usually he's at the bottom. So look at that.
Oh, wow. Okay.
All right. What are your thoughts on the Six of Coins?
The Six of Coins for me, it's actually... Okay, I have disclaimer. I do have a tendency to kind of take a very psychological approach to all the cards in the deck. But I think the Six of Coins, I think it's always for me kind of suggested some kind of an institutional kind of question mark around the issue of wealth and prosperity. Because it's just bringing in front of you, really, it's an image that tells you someone has a lot of money and then others have barely any. And someone's in a position either to give it or to not give it, right? I know usually we interpret upright as, actually making the choice of giving, right? Doing the charitable thing, etc. And the inverse as refraining from that choice and somehow, right, on a very basic level. But the fact remains that the person has a choice, right? And he's holding a pair of scales right here, right? And it's like, the scales are interesting because they kind of make you wonder, right? Is he trying to weigh, let's say, the weight of something he thinks of giving in coins and then giving the coins based on that weight? Or is he more symbolically trying to weigh what he might lose if he were to give away his money versus what he might gain? So, for example, material loss against, let's say, spiritual gain, some kind of spiritual reward, But the fact remains that this person, he is in a position to decide. He's totally free, like whether or not to give, And, sometimes I feel like it's just the artwork, and I've seen this card several versions of the Rider-Waite, and it's always struck me, and I'm really curious to hear your thoughts on this, Cassidy. It's always struck me as if like he has something close to a smile. A shadow of a smile on his face.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not so sure. Like, I don't think if I was asking for someone, if I was like in dire straits and begging, reaching out my hands, extending my hands for money from someone, I'm not sure I'd feel comfortable if I saw that person smiling at me. You know what I'm saying? So that smile always just kind of provokes a
Mhm.
question. Just raises a question mark in my head. So yeah, these are my initial thoughts on the six of coins. What about you?
I want to hear Sharon's perspective, but I will quickly jump on that before, because I think that's a really interesting thing about this particular card, because we do have multiple figures and this is a card of interaction. I rarely see this card as, a person or with inside themselves. Like there's usually 2 to 3 parties at play anytime I see this card come up. That's interesting when you say that too, because if you ever watch that Friends episode where Phoebe says there's no such thing as a selfless good deed, even if she donated and she spent money that she wanted to buy this really expensive hamster, and she donated to this children's charity instead, and then it ended up getting her friend on TV, and she's like, oh, that makes me feel so good, and she's like, oh crap, she was trying to find some selfless good deed, and her whole point was like, there isn't one. Anytime you do something for someone else, like if what it is, it makes you feel good, or in some fashion it'll come back to you. So that's interesting where you say that, because it does talk about a dynamic of the interplay between people when an exchange occurs. Does this person, and quick side story, I was talking to my grandpa last week. He is 94 years old and I just love him to pieces. He was saying how much he would love to win the lottery. We were talking about the current Powerball situation down in the States, and he was like, I would have so much fun giving that away to people who needed it. He's like, if you found a family that was on hard times and just you could change their life and get them a house, get them food for the night. He's like, that would be so much fun to do. And I was like, that's very cute. And I feel like that's quite Six of Coinsy in that sense as well. With like, if you're in a position to give and you do so, is there, I don't know, that's a very interesting dynamic, because you bring up the other point. It's like, well, if you're receiving from someone, I don't like, you know what I mean? There's that weird dynamic of, are you doing it to make yourself happy? Does that matter? What does that do to the genuineness of this interaction? So that's a very cool point. Before I ramble on, Sharon, I want to see how you see this here Six of Coins. What are your thoughts on this card?
I'm gonna keep it brief, but I love how Khalid saw that. I would like to point out that sometimes I see the scale as weighing who needs it more. That would be a tough choice. Who do I help? And whether he's wealthy or not, he's still got to take into consideration his needs, his bills. I mean, because the more you make, the bigger your bills are. It's just that simple. And if you're gonna
Right.
work to make money, you can't be made to feel bad because you have it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think that would be a difficult decision. So he's weighing up, and maybe he's weighing up to see who genuinely needs it. Because if you go like somewhere like San Francisco, there's actually scam artists out on the street pretending to be beggars. Yeah, and you don't
Yes.
know who's genuine or not. So there's all that. And I see the smile completely different than you, Colleen. I see the smile as him giving comfort to the person, I see you, I feel you, I want to help you, and it does make him feel good to do it. And I don't think that's a bad thing. I I don't know.
It's strange, that's why I was really curious to get your feedback on the smile, because I think in pretty much every version that I've encountered of Rider Waite, and I'm not saying I've seen them all, but I've seen a few, the smile always struck me as smug, and I was like, is this an issue with me, or is it maybe the design, the visual design?
Could
Maybe
be the
is it
visual
like,
design.
yeah, because it's actually, now that you mentioned that, it's, I think visually, like unless like you dedicate a lot of space just to the face on the card, would be difficult to depict, let's say, a state of mind as complicated as genuine charity. That would have, like, I imagine, pretty complex facial expressions going with it, not just like a curved line like
Well,
that,
this one's difficult.
Yeah, but for the most, yeah. Mm.
This was difficult
Mhm.
because he's got conflicting body language. He's got his head down, like I'm not looking down at you, but you know, his head is kind of humble, but the way his hand is raised is kind of like, I am the Almighty. You know, I'm here to save you.
Mm.
It's conflicting body language.
There's also
I'm
a weird
so
thing with
glad
like,
you mentioned.
I'll just
Oh,
go
sorry.
into that
I
as
was just
well
gonna. I was.
because, sorry.
Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead, Cassie. Go ahead.
Okay,
Let's everyone
I'll be
talk at
quick.
once.
But this, so another thing too, like just of this card in general, it has a very transactional nature, right? It's the only card we see actually money changing hands in a card. There's, you know, quite physically the coins dropping. But also if I agree with what you're saying. So when I look at his gaze, he's kind of trying to meet that person's eyes in a sense. But then it's like if I was to pass you something, would I not put it in your hands? Like, why am I dropping it 2 feet so we can all
Oh,
see how much is being dropped? And maybe that's like, you know, so person A, person B, and person C knows how much is being, you know, dropped into the hand. There is the visual of like, you know, the city's way in the back. So some people say like he's doing it out of the city where people don't see. But perhaps too, you know, he's got like 2 feet or so of space that these coins are dropping so that other person sees. I hadn't thought of that before, but
maybe he's
there
a
is a lot in his
leper.
body language.
Yeah,
Pardon?
there's a lot of body language going on with all three of
Oh.
them. And
Mm-hmm.
Oh. But I'm so happy you mentioned the hands, Sharon, because I just noticed this and I'm shocked that I just noticed. But I'm pretty sure now that I look at the right hand, the one with the coins, it's the same gesture as the hand of the Pope.
yeah,
That.
yeah,
And that's
yeah.
10 of coin or 10 of
So
swords.
is he feeling godly or self-righteous by
Yeah,
giving
it's just
this
like you have to think
money out?
about that.
Very cool. I hadn't noticed
Wow.
that either.
And he's on the stage, isn't he?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, this is one
He
of the staged
shows
cards.
how kind he is. And he has some coins in his hand. He holds something back. He's not giving all to this guy. And I'm sure he won't give it to the other guy.
Yeah, because the
Hmm.
scales are over the other guy's
Yes,
head.
yes.
Beautiful catch, Nicole.
Yes,
Mhm.
100%. Which is interesting too. It's a card that I also see too calling into calls into question the abstract notion of fairness, right? In general, whatever that means.
Mm.
And whatever people
Right.
think they are owed or what they think is fair in this lifetime. This card can throw that
Mhm.
into question as well. And I did want to say too with this
Yeah.
card, I have seen it come up as just in like relationship context. Someone had come to me for a reading about this person that they were seeing, and I got this card and I was like, none of my business, but maybe are you not perhaps seeing 2 people? And they were. So I'm not, and this is not like a card of cheating, but it could perhaps genuinely be someone caught between 2 people. And I have had that come up time and time again. So don't cast that over this card all the time, but you can see that as well when someone is, like you said, making that choice. Person A or person B, who am I spending my time with?
And depending on who you
Amazing.
see
Yeah, yeah.
it from,
Mm.
you know, like it's always nice. Like I was in a relationship, I had one friend and she was incredibly generous, right?
Yeah.
But she
Mhm.
never allowed me to be generous back or even to pay her back. So the relationship felt very awkward and lopsided to me. And it got to the point where she was treating me like a child because she was seeing it like I'm taking care of you. And she was treating me like I'm taking care of you. And I was like, that's not what I signed up for.
Yeah.
So I ended the relationship because I wasn't allowed to give back.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Wow. That's
Yeah.
pretty
It is
deep.
it is a
Mhm.
one-sided card in that sense, for sure.
Mhm.
So I know we could talk the whole
Yeah.
episode on
Oh
that card, but
God, right?
let me pull my next card and we'll see.
Okay.
Did you
Where else do we see scales in the tarot?
justice? Oh
Wow.
wow.
All right, folks, let's talk about justice.
Oh my God, that's
Oh
amazing.
wow. We can't make
Oh,
this shit
That is
up.
amazing.
That's Cool.
Oof, oof, oof.
Okay, who
It's
wants to
mine.
start? We'll do Justice 10 minutes of fame.
Go ahead.
Well, right to the scales. Those two cards just, I mean, let's talk about justice on her own, right? Justice is all about, well, it's supposed to be fairness, but it's also man-made laws, not, like the Hierophant would be more of divine law and man, morals. But justice is man-made, and it's actually the man-made system is flawed, because you notice that justice has no blindfold, which surprises me. She's supposed to be blind, but she's not. She can see, and she's got the sword up and the scales. So my twisted head, it's not always what's fair, but it's supposed to be fair. So that's saying, look at the situation. Is it equality? Is it fair? Are you being fair to yourself, to somebody else? It could even be something legal with justice, which, let's face it, it truly is sometimes based on who you are, not what you did. One man can do a crime and go to jail for 20 years for it. Another man could do the same crime and get slapped on the wrist for it. It's not,
Right.
yeah. So you got to really look at it and see if is this flawed, or is
Yeah.
this, are you even seeing it right? Is it being executed properly?
Yeah. Yeah. I'm really glad that you mentioned that, the point that about the laws being man-made, because then that just turned my eyes to the curtain, which resonates with the curtain in the High Priestess card, and it makes me think, well, what's behind it? And maybe there has to be a curtain because there are powers kind of setting the agenda for within which justice is supposed to work, right? Setting the whole framework of laws within which justice is supposed to apply the law, right? But they have to remain hidden because they have to be like unknowable and therefore untouchable. Yeah.
Totally.
And then
yeah,
both
Cassidy.
those pillars are white. There is the absence of the black and white from the pillars does to me say that there's really not a true balance there.
Definitely. And when you brought up the curtain, Khalid, I'm seeing that in this moment as we're talking about it as like a border or a boundary, right? Sharon, like you're saying, the same person two different people commit the same crime and they get different punishments. That can be based on a wide variety of things, one of them being location. This is not legal in this place you stand, but on the other side of the curtain, we wouldn't care,
And
or
one of them even being
Right.
bias of the judge. I was in a court once, and every DUI, he was like, "Oh, I understand. I'm a recovering alcoholic. You get a warning." And then anything else was like wicked punishment for like minor things. And that was that judge. He was a man. Yeah.
Exactly. That's a good point, though. I like what you said too about not being blind. So it's like I would trust that Two of Swords because as soon as you've got sight, you are being subjective in some fashion, possibly, right? So, yeah, I agree with what you guys have said. I feel like justice sometimes comes up in readings. It'll show me a universal, divine, whatever you want to say, a sense of like rightness or wrongness in the reading, which sometimes shows the rightness or wrongness being done to the client, or if the client was the one who screwed up. It doesn't always be an upright reverse thing. I have had this card show up once. It was very cool. It was a reading about a car accident, and we needed to see who was in the wrong, and it came up justice reversed, and there was three cars. There was a brown car, a white car, and a red car, and this was just there to be like the red car was in the wrong, which was very cool.
Oh, that's cool.
Which was quite neat. But yes, justice is I like this card in terms of overall clarity. I think there is some aspects where justice should represent truth, but you filter it through a human lens and we no longer see that played out that way. So justice in its purest form, I think, is a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
And then you corrupt it, and Lord help us all, like that's not a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
all right, so there's our quick bomb on her. Now let's talk about these two cards together. What a lovely pair. So if you see these both in a reading, or what do you guys want to say about this little pair?
Well, me and Holly have started it off with the cards, so it's your turn.
Okay, sure. Well, yeah, I mean the scales are quite interesting because and okay, so there's quite a number of things where it's like there is I don't often see the justice necessarily involving other people inherently, whereas I said before, the Six of Coins I almost always do. Really, apart from these scales, I don't see these cards really bringing the same message at all necessarily. I just get such a different, like one of the, like the Six of Coins just is very transactional in whatever nature it's talking about, versus justice can be more stagnant, it can be more active. I feel like justice is one of those cards for me, it really depends on what is around it. And all cards do. What are we talking about and what is around it? But I don't know, seeing these cards together, it might show like a decision being made. If that Six of Coins is said choice that we're talking about, justice could even be pointing you towards, maybe pick the guy with the scales over his head, like maybe not.
Oh,
Something like that. Or it can be, funneling a different thing, right? Like we've got both of these figures holding a scale, and one of them has an upright sword and one of them has a dropping of coins. So it's like perhaps nobody else needs to be involved in this decision, right? It's your own, hold up your own damn sword before you start giving to other people. There's something you're maybe missing there.
nice.
Or you're giving away something that you need to think about more. Something like that. I don't know. Why don't you guys take it away? What do you
I
see here?
kind of like bringing it right back to your example with the friends and how she was so upset because it felt good. I see it as that with that justice up right there. I think that it's, to me in this moment, saying it's okay to feel good about doing something good for somebody else. It's okay if you get a feeling out of it, as long as it's genuine and it's pure.
Hmm.
Yeah, I'm actually seeing both cards as kind of necessarily linked. And I mean, obviously, the inclusion of the scales, that's a very conscious and meaningful element of the design. But I doubt that the creators would have done that without actually wanting some theme to be shared between the cards. And the theme I see as being shared, sort of, is, or it's more like a question. Yeah, the theme is a question. The question is, to what or where should one identify one's moral compass, or what should one base one's moral compass on? Should one base one's moral compass on the laws of the society in which they live, right, which are historically specific, and they might not favor the marginalized, or should one base one's moral compass on something universal and spiritual, and maybe something that appears in religions and spiritual movements, And I think, so if we take justice as more expressing the human expression of the law, then that would give the benefactor in the Six of Coins, how do you say, more freedom, right? More freedom to not share what he has, and also less blowback from the act of, let's say, preferring the self over the other, right? Whereas if the law that is calling to be obeyed is a spiritual one, then he would be, or you'd expect him to feel more compelled, right? More morally inspired to give and share, right? That which is legally defined by human law, which is defined as belonging to him, you know? So I feel like, yeah, I'm basically, there is this question in justice, the same kind of, let's say, undecidedness in the justice card, right? Like what is the right, what is the right, what is the balance, right? Who determines the balance? It really goes into this card as well, right? Where do my responsibilities lie, right? Do my responsibilities lie with securing my interests? Do they lie with identifying my interests with others and imagining myself in their shoes, and yeah, and just kind of thinking of myself as part of a larger whole, which includes others who are suffering, so yeah, so I really see these cards as kind of, yeah, just really organically related, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a
Can I-
very good point.
Can I say something?
Of course, yeah.
Yeah. So on these two cards, there's the scales. They are the same on the first side, but if you look at him, he has the scale up. He holds it up, and justice, it looks like the scale weighs more, is heavier than the sword. And for me, that means that justice knows how hard or how difficult it can be to give a harsh judgment. And the guy on the six of coins, he wants to show how easy it is for him to share, but he shows off for me. So especially when I look at both of them.
Beautiful.
I like that a
Amazing
lot.
point. That's amazing.
Yeah, I really, really like that. That's a very good point. And even like in the way they're holding it, right? Like he's kind of grasping it up like this, just like you said, and she's got it kind of like, held down like that. That's a really good point. Yeah, like justice is just such a, to me, that card is like resolute. That card is line in the sand. It is in its best forms. Like I said, like that is clarity. Like that is seeing things like as they are theoretically, potentially not in the eyes of like a law sense, but I just in the best senses of judgment, like I mean in comparison to these two, right? Like whereas there might be some level of struggle here or some level of emotion involved in the six of coins, like I don't get any of that from justice. Like I'm not going to justice for a hug.
Right.
I wouldn't hug any of these three before I would hug the justice card. So it seems, I don't know, justice can be a thing of like setting aside your emotional faculties or setting aside perhaps the opinions other have of you potentially. I know it's not the way the law works. But there is just like so much more solitary power potentially to be found in justice, as opposed to, whether he's showing off or the fact that there's some validation from the actions that you take with other people or whatever is going on there. Justice is just one of those cards, like if I need to put on my serious pants and, go and deliver hard news or speak really clearly about what I need to say and just not waver on what I know. Justice or Queen of Swords maybe are cards I would probably pull up versus like the Six of Coins. I feel like perhaps the Six of Coins, whatever he's doing, he's at least acknowledging this existence of these other people and perhaps taking into consideration what their needs are. I don't know that justice does. Justice is, makes the decision, calls the shots. For me, anyways, it's a little less, I care about what you think. It's like, I don't, other than taking in information, I guess, in that sense.
Well, justice wouldn't care about circumstances either. The law is the law. Whether you stole because you're starving or you stole because you were greedy, you still stole. And that's important. It's like, if somebody earns something and you take it from them, on purpose, you can't take into consideration the circumstances surrounding it. It's got to be upheld.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it does look like he is taking the circumstances into consideration, weighing out what he can afford to give without putting himself in that same position.
Mm-hmm. Great little combination. That's way too cool
Dang,
that
that
we
was
both ended
cool.
up getting the scaled cards. That's so cool. Oh, I just love that. Kelly, we didn't get a chance to loop around to you. Is there anything you had to say about either of these guys?
Yeah. Did you notice that on the six of coin card, the scales are not exactly balanced like in the justice ones. So
Yeah.
he has a little more play in what he wants to give as opposed to what he's being forced to give. You know,
Oh,
justice card. You know,
Mhm.
like maybe he was ordered by the justice card to give money to these people, so maybe he's not as happy about it as he thinks.
That
You
could be
know,
community service.
oh my
right?
yeah.
Community
God.
No,
service.
that
There you
That's
go.
brilliant, Kelly.
Oh,
Because I don't think that. I mean, in my opinion, my guy doesn't look like he's got a little grin. He looks like he's being forced. You know what I'm saying?
Interesting.
It's
I
almost
love
Ah.
that
a little bit of a
combination for
grimace,
community service,
actually,
Cassie.
like kind of.
That's
And
brilliant.
both cards have all the same colors except for the curtain behind the justice.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I wonder if when
Mhm.
she was doing them, she did that on purpose because they have the scales.
Oh
And
yeah, Golden Dawn colors are very, very symbolic.
you
Mhm.
know,
Very symbolic. And
all the
red is
colors
usually
are similar.
power.
Yeah. So I thought that definitely made like a connection there of the difference between it being etched in stone and choices, or like you said, community service. There you go.
I love that. And
Yeah.
with Justice too, like she's staring you right in the eye.
Yeah.
Like if you stare at that card, like you almost quiver a little bit. It's like, dang. You know, there's so much power in that Justice card. And when you said that too about the scales being a little bit uneven on the Six of Coins, it's a really good point. Because like looking at these two side by side, you can see that the guy is standing closer to on the Six of Coins to the guy on the right hand side where he has the scales over. And Justice is also not sitting centered on her bench. You know, we can see the bench a little bit
Oh
on the left. So
yeah.
it's like they're both sitting a little bit closer to the side of the scales than her sword or
The
his
side of
little,
right.
yeah. So there's a little bit of that leaning, or perhaps your decision being, or whatever is going on, you're always going to really fall back on or keep close to you whatever right and wrong is for you, or the ways that you rationalize and balance out choices in your life. Doesn't perhaps, like, that will always maybe carry a bit more weight than the action oriented, the coins dropping or the sword up kind of a deal. Very cool card combination. I love it. Great points, Kelly. Thank
Definitely.
you for that.
Sure.
Awesome. Nicole, did you have anything else you wanted to add?
No.
Okay, thank you for your contributions. Those were great as well. I think that's pretty much everything I had to say. Colleen, Sharon, anything else you guys wanted to wrap up with here on these two cards?
I'm good. That was really that was exciting seeing everybody's point of view and seeing it together. And I love having the Patreons because they point out new things to us too. I love seeing things differently and being so surprised.
Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you so much. Yeah. So again, we are the Pomegranate Grove, and we have we offer several services. We do tarot readings, we do astrology readings, we do astro tarot readings, and we also have regular monthly events and weekly events. So for example, every month we have a Magic Storyteller's Cottage where we tell interesting stories for the tarot, very intimate ones. We demonstrate also a spread of the month, and we demonstrate tarot techniques. And every week we have a very lively discussion about some interesting astrological topic. So you can find out everything we have on offer by going to our website, www.thepomegranate.com, and or looking us up on meetup.com. Also, you can, or you should, go to our YouTube channel if you haven't yet. Just search the Pomegranate Grove on YouTube, and we're always putting up new stuff there. And please do join our newsletter, which you will find on our website.
Beautiful. Thank you. And I will just quickly announce as well a few of our Patreon members. So we all met Kelly and Nicole here. Thank you both for being here. Also includes Sharon, Maisie, Danielle, Joe, Dean, Pavlina, and Kevin. So thank you guys all for being here. We love you to pieces. And come and join us. If you join our Patreon, you get access to this. You know, you can come and record the podcast with us, which is a great time. So anyways, please, you know, like, subscribe, share, come and hang out with us, or tune in next week for whatever wonderful things we start to talk about then. So have a great day, everyone. Thanks so much.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you for engaging with us. Please like, subscribe and share. To book a personal, in-depth reading and to learn more about our incredible courses in tarot and astrology, please visit our website www.thepomegranate.grove.com.